You may not realize it, but many of the decisions you're making today, what you fear, who you love, what you avoid, how you respond to conflict, aren't entirely your own. They're echoes from a childhood long gone, but far from forgotten. You see, most people think childhood ends when we grow up. We get taller, we get jobs, we start families. But for many, it doesn't. Not emotionally, not psychologically. In fact, a surprising number of adults are still running on patterns, beliefs, and wounds they picked up before they even understood what life was really about. These patterns, laid down in our formative years, act like a kind of invisible software, constantly running in the background of our minds, shaping our reactions and choices. Think of it like this. Imagine a computer program written when you were just learning to use a keyboard. It might have served a purpose then, helping you navigate simple tasks. But as you grew, as technology advanced, that old program remained, its code clunky and outdated, still trying to run sophisticated applications. It creates conflicts, errors, and limitations. This is very similar to how our early childhood experiences can shape our adult lives. In this video, we're going to dive deep into how your childhood is still quietly steering your adult life, from your relationships, to your career choices, to your sense of self-worth. We'll explore the intricate ways in which early experiences become embedded in our psyches and how they manifest in our daily lives, often without our conscious awareness. You'll understand why you repeat certain emotional patterns, why some people trigger you, and why true change often feels so hard. We'll look at specific examples and scenarios to illustrate these points, making them relatable and easy to understand. By the end, you may just discover that the part of you that's stuck, confused, or afraid isn't broken. It's just still trying to survive a childhood that's over, but never fully processed. It's like a phantom limb, still feeling the pain of an old injury. Recognizing this is the first step towards healing and reclaiming your adult self. The hidden child in the room, let's start with something we all do, but rarely admit. It's a universal human experience, yet shrouded in shame and confusion. You're in a disagreement, not a huge one, just a typical conflict. Maybe it's with your partner about whose turn it is to do the dishes, or with a colleague about a project deadline. It's a situation that, rationally, should elicit a mild response. And suddenly, you find yourself overreacting. Your heart starts pounding, your voice gets louder, and you're defensive, emotional, maybe even a little cruel. You say things you don't mean, things you can't take back. Later, the dust settles, and you're left with a sense of bewilderment and regret. You replay the scene in your mind, cringing at your own behavior. You wonder, why did I react like that? That wasn't me. I'm not usually like that. But the truth is, that was you. Or rather, that was a part of you. That was not the adult you. The person you've consciously cultivated and believe yourself to be. That was the child. You see, the brain doesn't forget emotional templates. It's a survival mechanism. From the moment we are born, our brains are meticulously recording every experience, especially those that carry strong emotional weight. The first time you were rejected, blamed, belittled, or abandoned, whether it was a harsh word from a parent, a betrayal by a friend, or the cold shoulder from a caregiver, your nervous system learned something. It learned how to protect you. It developed strategies to cope with these painful emotions, strategies that might have been effective in childhood, but become maladaptive in adulthood. Maybe it learned to fight, to become aggressive and confrontational, believing that the best defense is a good offense. Maybe it learned to shut down, to withdraw, and become emotionally numb, believing that if you don't feel, you can't get hurt. Maybe it learned to please, to become a chameleon, constantly adapting to the needs of others, believing that love and acceptance are conditional. And decades later, you still default to those same responses, even when they no longer serve you, even when they actively harm your relationships and your well-being, especially in moments that feel emotionally similar to those early experiences. A critical comment from your boss might trigger the same feeling of inadequacy you felt when you failed a test in school. A partner's silence might evoke the abandonment you experienced when a parent was emotionally distant. You're not being immature, you're being automatic. And that automatic behavior, it's not a character flaw. It's not a sign of weakness. It's coming from your inner child, that part of you that is still living in the past, still trying to protect you from threats that no longer exist. This inner child is not a separate entity, but rather a collection of emotional memories, beliefs, and coping mechanisms that reside within your subconscious. The blueprint of emotion between the ages of 0 to 7. Your brain is in what we call a sponge state. It's a period of incredible neuroplasticity, where connections are formed at an astonishing rate. You absorb everything around you like a sponge absorbs water, sights, sounds, smells, and especially emotions. You watch the adults in your life, your parents, your siblings, your teachers, and you learn what love looks like, what safety feels like, what happens when you make a mistake. You are, in essence, downloading the operating system for your emotional life. But here's the catch. Children don't interpret experiences logically. They lack the cognitive development to analyze situations objectively, to understand nuance and context. They internalize everything emotionally, filtering the world through the lens of their limited understanding and their intense feelings. A child's world is one of feeling, not of reason. If your caregiver was emotionally unavailable, perhaps due to their own struggles, your developing mind might have concluded, I must not be worthy of attention. My needs are not important. I am unlovable. This isn't a conscious thought, but rather a deep-seated belief that becomes ingrained in your psyche. If love came with conditions, like achievement or perfection, you may now believe that your worth depends on performance. You might become a workaholic, constantly striving for external validation, driven by a fear of failure and a belief that you are only as good as your last accomplishment. You might find it impossible to relax and enjoy life because deep down, you don't believe you deserve it unless you've earned it. If conflict was scary, chaotic, or loud in your childhood home, you might now do anything to avoid it. Even if that means losing your voice, sacrificing your needs, and tolerating unhealthy situations. You might equate conflict with danger, and your nervous system might go into overdrive at the slightest hint of disagreement, triggering a fight-or-flight response that is disproportionate to the actual situation. We build an emotional blueprint during these early years. This blueprint, composed of these core beliefs and emotional associations, becomes the foundation upon which we build our lives. And unless we rewrite it as adults, through conscious effort and healing, we keep building our lives based on a child's understanding of reality, a reality that was often distorted by fear, helplessness, and a lack of understanding. Relationships. The mirror nobody warned you about. Have you ever asked yourself why you're drawn to certain people? It's one of the great mysteries of life. This inexplicable pull we feel towards some individuals and the aversion we experience towards others. Why you fall for emotionally unavailable partners, despite consciously desiring intimacy and connection. Why you're constantly trying to rescue others, taking on the role of the caregiver or the fixer in your relationships. Or why you feel like you have to prove yourself in love, constantly striving to earn affection and validation. Relationships, more than anything else, expose the unhealed child. They act like a mirror, reflecting back to us our deepest wounds and our most ingrained patterns. They have a unique power to trigger our old emotional baggage, bringing to the surface the feelings we have long suppressed or ignored. That's because romantic partners often unconsciously resemble the emotional tone of your caregivers. This isn't about physical appearance or specific personality traits. It's about the familiar feeling they evoke within you. It's about the way they make you feel seen or unseen, loved or unloved, safe or unsafe. If your emotional needs were ignored as a child, you may now chase people who do the same. Not because you enjoy being hurt, but because it feels familiar. It's a pattern your subconscious recognizes. And even though it's painful, there's a strange comfort in the familiar. You might be unconsciously trying to finally earn the love you never got, repeating the same dynamic in the hope of achieving a different outcome. This is known as repetition compulsion, a psychological phenomenon where individuals reenact past traumas in their current lives. If you had to take care of a parent emotionally, perhaps acting as their confidant or mediator, you may now feel more comfortable giving than receiving, always the helper, never the helped. You might be drawn to partners who are needy or dependent, recreating the dynamic where you feel valuable and needed, but at the expense of your own needs and well-being. These patterns aren't random. They're reenactments of our past. Your subconscious is trying to resolve the past through the present, attempting to master the unresolved emotional challenges of childhood by recreating them in your adult relationships. It's a way of saying, if I can make it work this time, I can finally heal. But love isn't therapy, and your partner isn't your parent. And until you see that, the child within will keep sabotaging the adult you're trying to become, leading to a cycle of disappointment, frustration, and heartache. You'll be trapped in a loop of familiar pain, unable to break free and experience the healthy, fulfilling relationships you truly desire. Fear, risk, and the inner critic. Let's talk about fear. It's a primal emotion designed to keep us safe from danger. But fear can also be a powerful force that holds us back, limiting our potential and preventing us from living fully. Not the obvious kind, the fear of snakes or flying, which are often rooted in specific experiences or learned associations. I mean the more insidious, pervasive fears, the fear of being seen, of speaking your truth, of expressing your authentic self, the fear of failing, of not measuring up, of being judged, the fear of not being enough, of being unworthy of love and belonging. These fears often have little to do with current circumstances. They're echoes of old experiences reverberating from the past into the present. They're the voices of our childhood insecurities, amplified and distorted by time. And they're kept alive by what we call the inner critic, the relentless, often harsh voice in your head that sounds like you, but isn't really you. That voice might have started as a critical parent, a teacher who shamed you for making mistakes, or a peer who ridiculed your efforts. Over time, these external voices became internalized, woven into the fabric of your self-perception. Now, even when you're grown, independent, and capable, it whispers, "Don't speak up in that meeting. You'll embarrass yourself. Your ideas are stupid anyway. Don't try that new hobby. You'll fail. You're not talented enough, and everyone will laugh at you. Don't show your emotions. It's weak. You'll be seen as vulnerable and taken advantage of." And you listen, because that voice sounds safe, familiar. It's the voice you've always known, the voice that has always been there, even if it's been a source of pain. But it's not helping you grow. It's keeping you small, confined within the limitations of your past. It's like a self-imposed prison, built from the bricks of childhood trauma. Not because you're weak, but because part of you still thinks you're a child, powerless and dependent, trying to avoid punishment, rejection, and humiliation. Not an adult free to choose, to take risks, to embrace vulnerability, and to learn from failure. How the body remembers what the mind forgets, even when you don't consciously remember the specific details of your childhood. The hurtful words, the neglectful actions, the moments of terror, your body does. It has its own memory, a somatic memory, that operates outside the realm of conscious recall. Have you ever been in a perfectly safe situation, perhaps enjoying a quiet evening at home, but felt irrationally anxious? Your heart races, your palms sweat, and you feel a sense of unease that you can't explain. Or you were complimented on your work, and instead of feeling joy and pride, you felt discomfort and suspicion, as if waiting for the other shoe to drop. That's your nervous system reacting, not to the present moment, but to a past trauma. It's a flashback, not of images, but of sensations. Because trauma isn't just what happens to you. It's what happens inside you because of what happened to you. It's the imprint that those experiences leave on your nervous system, altering its baseline state and making you more reactive to perceived threats. An unresolved emotional pain gets stored somatically, meaning in your body. Tight shoulders, a clenched jaw, a knot in your stomach, shallow breath, chronic headaches, digestive issues. These aren't just random symptoms of stress. They're often signals, clues, and physical manifestations of unresolved emotional pain. They are the body's way of communicating what the mind has suppressed. They point to the parts of you that are still trying to feel safe, still bracing for impact, still living in a state of hypervigilance. Healing isn't just about thinking differently, about changing your beliefs and your thoughts. It's also about feeling safely what you couldn't feel then, allowing yourself to experience the emotions that were once too overwhelming to process. It's about creating a safe space for your body to release the pent-up energy of past traumas. That's how we truly release the past, not just intellectually, but also physically and emotionally. When success isn't satisfaction, let's flip the script. We often associate childhood wounds with failure, with a lack of achievement. But what if you were successful? What if you've built a thriving career, a loving family, a respected reputation, but deep down, something still feels missing? There's a persistent sense of emptiness, a nagging feeling that this can't be all there is. That's often the adult chasing a goal the child never had. You're driven, ambitious, and high-achieving, but your motivation is rooted in a desire to compensate for a childhood void. You're not working for joy, for passion, or for the intrinsic satisfaction of contributing your talents to the world. You're working for approval, for love, for validation that you didn't receive as a child. You've confused achievement with worth, believing that your value as a person is contingent upon your external accomplishments. And even when you reach your goals, they don't fulfill you because the child in you doesn't need another trophy, another accolade, another pat on the back. They need to be seen, heard, accepted unconditionally, and loved for who they are, not for what they do. Without healing, ambition becomes addiction, a relentless pursuit of external validation that can never truly satisfy. It's a race with no finish line, a constant striving to fill a bottomless pit. Because the emptiness isn't out there in the next promotion, the bigger house, or the more prestigious title. It's inside. And no external win will ever fill a childhood void. Healing the child to free the adult, so what now? This understanding of how our childhood shapes our present can feel overwhelming, even depressing. But it's important to remember that this knowledge is power. It's the first step towards liberation. First, you acknowledge you're not broken. You are not flawed. You are patterned. And patterns, unlike inherent flaws, can be rewired. They can be changed, modified, and replaced with healthier, more adaptive ones. Healing doesn't mean blaming your parents, who were likely doing the best they could with what they had. It doesn't mean dwelling on the past or rehashing every wound in excruciating detail. It means meeting the parts of yourself that were never met, the parts that were neglected, invalidated, or shamed. It means listening to the parts that had to stay quiet, the parts that were silenced or suppressed. It means allowing the feelings that were once too big, too overwhelming, too terrifying to experience. It means reparenting yourself, giving yourself the love, compassion, and support that you didn't receive as a child. It's about becoming the nurturing, wise, and unconditionally loving parent that you always needed. That might look like setting boundaries where there were none, saying no without guilt or apology, and protecting your time and energy. It might involve speaking kindly to yourself, replacing self-criticism with self-compassion, and treating yourself with the same gentleness and understanding you would offer a child. It might mean allowing yourself to rest without guilt, to play without purpose, and to simply be without having to do or achieve anything. It also includes taking emotional risks, even when it terrifies you, stepping outside your comfort zone, and challenging the limiting beliefs that have held you captive for so long. Because every time you choose a different response, every time you act in a way that defies your old patterns, you're showing the child within. We're safe now. We could do this differently. We are no longer helpless. We have choices. And that's where true freedom begins, not in changing the past, but in changing your relationship to it. It's about integrating your past experiences into your present identity, acknowledging the pain without being defined by it, and creating a future that is not bound by the limitations of your childhood. Closing reflection, what if the part of you that's struggling isn't a problem? What if it's not a defect, a weakness, or a character flaw? What if it's just the child still waiting for someone, for you, to finally see them, to hear them, to validate their pain, and to say, I see you. I acknowledge your suffering. I hear you. Your feelings are valid. You don't have to fight anymore. You are safe now. I am here for you, and I will never abandon you. You've grown up physically. Now it's time to grow free, emotionally and psychologically. Let this be the moment you stop acting like a child. Not because you're ashamed of that part of yourself, but because you're finally ready to guide that child toward healing, to provide them with the love and security they always needed, and to become the adult you were always meant to be. Whole, integrated, and empowered.